ただいまより平成23年度ブループラネット賞受賞者記念講演会を開会いたします。私は本日の進行役を務めさせていただきます財団事務局長安田と言います。よろしくお願い申し上げます。それでははじめに表彰式典の記念映像をご覧いただきます。
調べを覚えていますか？この星に生まれ、この星に生きたすべての命たちが願いを込めて紡ぎ出す祈りの調べをあなたは覚えていますか？
それでは、講演会に先立ちまして主催者を代表して朝日ガラス財団理事長田中哲司からご挨拶を申し上げます。
本日は2011年ブループラネット賞受賞者記念講演会にご多忙中にもかかわりませず、各界を代表される多数の皆様方にご出席をいただきまして、厚く御礼を申し上げます。朝日ガラス財団は、人々が真の豊かさを享受できる社会や文明の実現に向かってお役に立つことを願い、研究助成と検証を事業の2つの柱として運営をしてまいっております。研究助成事業につきましては、当財団が1933年に設立された当初から、大学の応用科学の先生方に助成を行い、その後、自然科学全般および人文社会科学へと助成の対象を広げてまいりました。一方、検証事業としては、このブループラネット賞は地球環境問題の解決に優れた業績を挙げられた方々に対して、その業績をたたえ、私どもの敬意を表しますとともに、世界の一人でも多くの人々がこの問題に関心を持たれることを願いし、期待をいたしまして、創設されたものでございます。地球環境国際賞として1992年に発足して以来、国内外の皆様から温かいご支援をいただき、おかげさまをもちまして、昨日第20回目の表彰式典を多くの方々のご列席のもとに 挙行することができました。本日はその受賞を記念し、まず米国のジェーン・ルブチェンコ博士にご講演をいただき、その後、科学技術振興機構研究開発戦略センターの吉川博之センター長に質疑応答をコーディネートしていただきます。続いて、インドのベアフットカレッジ創設者のバンカー・ロイ氏にご講演をいただき、続いて、金沢大学環境保全センターの鈴木勝則教授に、質疑応答をコーディネートしていただきます。受賞者の方々、並びに質疑応答のコーディネーターをお願いいたしました先生方には、本日のご講演にご列席いただきまして、改めて心から御礼を申し上げます。本日の講演会が地球環境問題に対する私たちの理解を深め、その解決に役立つことを記念をいたしまして、開会のご挨拶といたします。どうもありがとうございました。
本日は受賞者のご講演の後、会場からご質問をお受けいたします。皆様のお手元の資料の中に、受賞者のルプチェンコ博士、ベアフットカレッジ宛ての、質問票がございます。ご質問希望の方はご記入いただいて、後ほど係の者にお渡し願います。なお、質問についてはこちらで英訳化してお伝えしますので、日本語でお書きいただいて結構です。
ジェーン・ルブチェンコ博士は6人姉妹の長女として1947年に米国コロラド州デンバーで生まれました。読書、音楽、スポーツなどに活発な少女で、飛び板飛び込みではジュニアオリンピックで何度も優勝しました。1978年からはオレゴン州立大学に移り長男、3年後に次男が誕生しました。博士は育児と仕事を両立させ、1988年には正教授、翌年動物学学部長に昇進し、海洋生物の環境順応について研究を行いました。
本日の演題は、美と恵みと力の源である海洋、我々の青い惑星の持続可能な未来への鍵でございます。それでは、ルプチェンコ先生、お願いいたします。Dr. Lubchenco, please proceed.
Good afternoon. It is a singular honor to accept the prestigious Blue Planet Prize. I extend my deepest gratitude to the Asahi Glass Foundation, and I applaud the Foundation's recognition of the importance of science-based environmental solutions for our blue planet. I also extend my heartfelt thanks to the people of Japan for their gracious hospitality, and to all of you for coming here today. Our planet is indeed blue. The oceans cover 71% of the Earth's surface and contain 97% of the planet's water. They are the likely origin of life on Earth, and they support far greater biodiversity, more different kinds of life than exist on land. They regulate our weather and our climate, and they provide life support systems for the planet. In short, the oceans sustain life on Earth. The blue parts of our blue planet have long served as grocery stores, pharmacies, highways, playgrounds. temples, shrines, churches, and mosques for people all around the world. They inspire us and offer us knowledge for those who choose to listen. However, misled by their vastness and blinded by their murky depths, humanity has taken the beauty, the bounty, the majesty, and the mystery of oceans for granted. Thus far, we have failed to safeguard their future and therefore ours. The result is increasingly vulnerable coastal communities, economies, and societies. This depletion and disruption affect our economies, our health, the harmony of life, and our future. We are losing the numerous benefits that healthy ocean ecosystems provide, such as food security or jobs, vibrant communities and healthy economies, protection from storms, climate regulation, recreational opportunities, and cultural icons. Healthy oceans are the life support system for the planet. Human societies, economies, and our health depend upon them. But few people appreciate the seriousness of the problems. Many people see oceans as infinitely bountiful. It's hard for them to believe that something so immense could be impacted in severe and potentially irreversible ways. Through advances in science, we know that oceans are not infinitely bountiful and resilient. They are fragile and vulnerable to human impacts. Those who see the problems may be intimidated by the challenges associated with transitioning to more sustainable practices and policies. Moreover, far too many people view environmental sustainability as a barrier to economic progress. In reality, having to choose between the economy and the environment is a false dichotomy. Solutions exist to achieve economic growth while maintaining and recovering the life support services provided by ecosystems. Scientific information has not only helped us understand the problems, it is providing solutions. Now is a pivotal moment. Global population is 7 billion and growing, with consequent increasing needs for basic goods and services. The environment is changing rapidly and radically, and the accelerating pace of environmental change presents serious challenges and opportunities for individuals, nations, and the global community to make a transition to more sustainable practices and policies. Fortunately, awareness of the challenges facing our oceans is increasing, and science-based solutions are readily available. Protecting and restoring healthy oceans is eminently feasible. Success stories abound, but are not at the scale needed. Now is the time to embrace the opportunity to chart a new course for oceans and for ourselves. Today I will focus on proven solutions that emphasize local empowerment, provide opportunities for industry, align conservation and economic incentives, and are grounded in scientific understanding. These solutions enable us to use oceans without using them up. The goal is simple: healthy oceans and healthy people, major ingredients for a healthy blue planet. My perspectives. My focus is influenced by my experiences as a person, a scientist, an academic researcher, teacher, and now a leader of federal agency, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. NOAA's portfolio includes oceans, coasts, weather, and climate. Through science, services, and stewardship, NOAA saves lives, creates jobs, and enables commerce, promotes healthy oceans and coasts, and enables informed decision-making. This last role has given me a keen appreciation for the importance of partnerships in dealing with challenges, especially those involving oceans. Little did I know that a year and a month into my job at NOAA, the U.S. would face an unprecedented environmental disaster in our waters and along our shores, the Deepwater Horizon oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico. Approximately 4.9 million barrels of oil flowed over 3 months, affecting much of the Gulf itself and over 1,000 miles of shoreline. NOAA's role was to provide scientific guidance, ensure seafood safety, protect habitats and wildlife, assess damage, enable restoration, and share information with a wide variety of interested parties. The generosity and assistance provided by our international partners during the Deepwater Horizon disaster was extraordinary. We greatly appreciate the containment boom, the oil skimmers, and technical expertise provided by the government of Japan. In the aftermath of this year's 3/11 events, it was the United States' turn and NOAA's to offer support and kindness to our friends in Japan. NOAA continues to collaborate closely with both Japanese and U.S. government agencies to assist with response efforts. Because we had to address similar issues and use similar tools in response to Deepwater Horizon in the Gulf, we shared the lessons we learned and the science we developed during that disaster to help support Japan's response efforts. For example, at the invitation of the Japan Agency for Marine, Earth Science, and Technology, NOAA participated in a workshop to compare U.S. and Japanese ocean plume models. We are working closely with Japan on the issue of seafood safety. Strong partnerships between our countries are critical during times of crisis. Partners communicate and collaborate. They share information and expertise. And these partnerships do not end when the acute phase of a disaster has passed. Rather, partners stand by each other and help each other along the road to recovery, and in determining ways to prevent or minimize future disasters. These disasters provide a stark reminder of the interconnectedness of healthy oceans and the communities and economies that depend upon them. And these disasters remind us of the importance of addressing other serious problems that emerge more slowly than an acute disaster. What do we actually know about the challenges facing us? A brief summary of the problems to be addressed sets the stage for considering solutions. In the next few slides, I will summarize key physical and chemical changes first, and then biological and ecological ones. On the physical side, compared to a century ago, oceans are now warmer, higher, stormier, saltier, lower in oxygen, and more acidic. Global sea surface temperatures have warmed approximately 0.4 degrees centigrade since the 1950s, due primarily to the burning of fossil fuels. Sea surface temperatures are projected to increase another 1.8 degrees centigrade to 1.8 to 4 degrees centigrade over the 21st century. Warmer waters cause coral bleaching, rain shifts, altered productivity, and increases in invasive species. Climate change also causes sea level to rise, both due to melting of glaciers and polar ice caps on land, and because warmer water expands. Since 1900, sea level has risen approximately 1 to 2.5 millimeters per year, but more recently, about 3 millimeters per year. Increased concentrations of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere resulted in increased carbon dioxide in the oceans, which causes oceans to become more acidic. Oceans have become approximately 30% more acidic over the past 150 years and are expected to become more corrosive by the end of this century. The impacts of this ocean acidification will be particularly severe for calcifying species, such as this sea butterfly or pteropod. Each pteropod is about the size of a lentil bean. They are important food for many species of fish, such as mackerel and salmon. This slide depicts how rapidly the shell of a pteropod dissolved in seawater that mimics the level of acidification expected by the end of this century. Ocean acidification is already affecting many plants and animals with shells, such as those shown here. Ocean acidification causes other problems as well. For example, it affects sound transmission and the ability of fish, such as salmon, to smell and thus find their native streams to return to spawn. But human activities have affected more than just physical aspects of oceans at a global scale. Coastal and oceanic species and habitats have also been significantly altered. Oceans now have fewer top predators, more overfished species, and more endangered species. There are more harmful algal blooms, more outbreaks of diseases and pests like jellyfish, more dead zones, more degraded estuaries and coral reefs, and fewer salt marshes and mangroves. Over 90% of the large predatory fish in our oceans are gone. Industrial scale fishing has had major impacts on oceans. The animation that I will show you shortly shows how fishing effort has changed from 1951 to 1999. The data from this animation are from the UN Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO. The white portions of the ocean show areas that are not yet heavily fished. The red color will depict the peak of fishing effort, and pink shows where heavy fishing has depleted fish stocks to such an extent that it is no longer economically viable to fish intensively there, and so industrial fisheries have moved on to new, less exploited areas. Watch the years in the lower left-hand corner, and I will now start the animation. You can see how in the 1950s the peak of fishing effort was concentrated along the coastal margins. Through time, as those areas became depleted, fishing effort moved farther offshore. The general trend is away, farther and farther away from the coast and farther south. By 1999, most of the ocean is pink. There are no more undeveloped areas. In this next slide, you can see similar information depicted in a different format. The FAO characterizes different fisheries into the categories you see here: underdeveloped, developing, fully exploited, overexploited, or depleted. This graph shows the percent of major fisheries around the world that are in each of these categories through time. And you can see that in 1950, almost 90% of major fisheries were underdeveloped or developing. But by 2000, virtually no fisheries were in that category. In contrast, the major fisheries that were overexploited or depleted went from 0 in 1950 to 70% in the year 2000. In just a few decades, industrial-scale fishing has had a dramatic impact on oceans. Some kinds of fishing have consequences to non-target species. Sea turtles, seabirds, whales, and dolphins, and fish are often caught accidentally in nets or on hooks. Sea turtles are particularly at risk. They are threatened by fishing gear and oil spills, and their nesting beaches are disappearing. All 7 species of sea turtles are threatened or endangered. Not only are species at risk, but habitats are as well. Half of the world's salt marshes and approximately 1/3 of the world's mangroves and seagrass beds are already lost or degraded. Coral cover has declined by 80% in the Caribbean and 50% in the Pacific. Another major global change that affects oceans is nutrient pollution. Increased use of fertilizers, loss of native vegetation along streams and rivers, and more concentrated livestock operations have led to increased runoff of nutrients, especially nitrogen and phosphorus. This nutrient pollution causes increase in harmful algal blooms and areas of low to no oxygen, so-called dead zones. The number of dead zones around the world has approximately doubled each decade since the 1960s, and a recent study identified more than 530 dead zones around the world. To summarize this taking stock of the challenges portion of my talk, human activities have inadvertently altered the chemistry, the physical structure, and the biology of oceans. The result is depleted fisheries, polluted waters, outbreaks of pests and pathogens, and more susceptible coastal communities in far too many places around the world. But the news is not all bad. Thanks to advances in science and new partnerships, approaches, and policies, creative solutions are emerging to address many of these problems and to restore the beauty and bounty of oceans. These solutions offer models and hope, and this, in fact, is my message today, both a message of urgency and of hope. And I wish to highlight 5 categories of solutions: ecosystem-based approaches in spatial planning, fisheries management, habitat management and marine reserves, adaptation to climate change and ocean acidification, and greater awareness. So let me begin with ecosystem approaches. Historically, different activities in oceans have been managed on a sector-by-sector or issue-by-issue basis. Often different agencies regulate fisheries, aquaculture, oil and gas production, renewable energy production, water quality, endangered species, marine transportation, marine mammals, undersea cables, etc. In the United States, there are over 140 different laws and regulations at just the federal level that govern ocean policies and practices. This hodgepodge approach has contributed significantly to depleted and degraded oceans, frequent conflicts among users, uncertainty or endless red tape for industry, overlapping jurisdictions, as well as gaping holes in responsibility. In contrast, an ecosystem approach considers the individual and collective environmental impacts of different activities. An ecosystem approach focuses on the importance of maintaining basic ecosystem patterns and processes, the conditions required to ensure healthy, productive, and resilient ecosystems. Ecosystem approaches consider people as part of ecosystems, and they enable an overarching focus on stewardship. Increasing demands on ocean space for diverse uses, including tourism, recreation, fishing, shipping, national security, oil and gas exploration, wind and wave energy, have led to more and more conflicts among users, as well as additional impacts on ocean ecosystems already stressed. Spatial planning is a new tool designed to minimize both conflicts among uses and environmental impacts. Spatial planning considers the full range of possible activities in an area, then identifies the combination of uses that achieve the dual goals. Spatial planning enables integrated, forward-looking decision-making. Enhanced certainty and predictability for industry, improved stewardship and sustainable use provide compelling reasons for this more comprehensive approach. A number of nations and states have recently adopted policies that codify ecosystem approaches and spatial planning into their governance framework. Last year, President Obama signed an executive order creating the first ever U.S. national ocean policy that outlines a broad vision, a bold vision, for more holistic ecosystem and science-based management of U.S. waters. management that more accurately reflects scientific understanding of the multiple and interacting impacts of humans on coastal and ocean ecosystems. The policy reflects the interconnected nature of humans and oceans and underscores the fact that our communities, economies, and livelihoods depend on healthy ecosystems. The provision of seafood is a critical ecosystem service provided by oceans. For billions of people, seafood means food security. For others and for many coastal communities, fishing is a culture, a way of life and health, and the tradition. For many communities and nations, it is a source of revenue, a commodity to export or trade. But as we saw in the animation earlier, serial overfishing of one stock after another, aided immeasurably by technological innovation, has rapidly depleted oceans around the globe. And certain types of fishing gear have destroyed bottom habitats and devastated many non-target species, such as sea turtles, seabirds, and marine mammals. These impacts often cascade through an entire ecosystem, contributing to further depletion and disruption. Even in so-called well-managed fisheries, overfishing occurs all too often. But recognition of these challenges has stimulated scientific innovations that are revolutionizing fishery management. Traditional approaches to fishery management often result in what is called a race to fish, in which each fisherman or boat or nation catches as much as possible, as quickly as possible, until the entire quota for the year has been landed. In an effort to prevent overfishing in this intense race, fishery managers use traditional tools that restrain fishing effort, such as specific seasons or number of days that can be fished, types of gear to be used, etc. This, in turn, often results in enhancement of capacity, larger and faster boats, and improved technology to go farther and find fish faster. In extreme cases, the race to fish is so intense that the entire year's allocation for a fishery can be caught in a single day. The overall result is often unintended but nevertheless real overfishing, significant bycatch of non-target species, unsafe fishing conditions, poor quality of seafood, low market prices when the market is glutted with a particular species, followed by dry periods when none of that species is available. Now, clearly, not all fisheries are the same, and some nations have been more successful at managing fisheries. In the United States, a law called the Magnuson-Stevens Fishery Conservation and Management Act, amended in 2006, is widely hailed as landmark legislation that mandated strict adherence to scientifically determined annual limits on each fishery, to end overfishing, and firm measures to rebuild depleted fisheries. That legislation requires my agency, NOAA, to have in place by the end of this year specific limits on and rebuilding plans for each one of the 528 federally managed stocks and stock complexes in U.S. waters. We are on track to do just that. And many previously overfished species are beginning to recover. Since 2000, 21 previously overfished stocks have been rebuilt. NOAA estimates that rebuilding all depleted fisheries in U.S. waters could add 500,000 jobs and $32 billion to the U.S. GDP. Few nations have such strict rules, and these rules were put in place following decades of overfishing in the U.S. Moreover, actually implementing these annual catch limits continues to be very challenging. Overall, the economics of traditionally managed fishing favors intense exploitation, overfishing, and negative impacts to other species. Exploitation, all too often, trumps conservation. A focus on short-term economic gain is usually given priority over long-term economic prosperity. A very different approach to managing fisheries is now available. It has been used for a long time in a few places, but a new spotlight is shining on it. This approach is called catch shares, and it has been adopted in a number of developed and developing countries. One example of a catch share program that is used in the United States, Iceland, Chile, Australia, Canada, and New Zealand is called the Individual Transferable Quota, or ITQ. This map gives you a sense of some of the ITQ fisheries used around the world. This alternative approach eliminates the classical race to fish that plagues traditionally managed fisheries by allocating a fraction or a share of the total allowable fishery catch to individuals, communities, cooperatives, or other entities. The right to that fraction, let's say 1% of the total, persists from year to year. You can think of the overall fishery as a pie. A shareholder's fraction, in this example 1%, stays the same regardless of the size of the pie each year. But if the pie grows larger, so too does the total amount in each share. In this system, each shareholder has a vested interest in seeing the fishery be healthy, so the amount of fish they are allocated can grow through time. As the health of the fishery increases and the total catch increase, so too does the amount allocated to each shareholder. In this system, conservation and economic incentives are aligned. This flips the economics of traditional fishery management on its head. In a traditionally managed system, conservation and exploitation are in conflict. In a catch-share management system, conservation and exploitation are on the same side. Catch shares enable a focus on long-term economic prosperity and ecosystem health, not just on short-term economic gain. Another type of catch share, one that has been used for centuries here in Japan, provides an individual fisherman or a group of fishermen with the exclusive right to fish in a given geographic area. Today, we call these types of spatial rights fisheries territorial user rights in fisheries, or TURFs. TURFs provide fishermen with the incentive to harvest sustainably and to keep the habitat within their exclusive fishing zone healthy and resilient. Again, conservation and economic incentives are aligned. A recent scientific analysis done by someone who's here in the audience with us today, Dr. Steve Gaines, analyzes the performance of catch-share fisheries versus traditionally managed fisheries. It found that the former, catch-share fisheries, are much more likely to result in sustainable fisheries. Now, catch-share programs are not a panacea, nor are they appropriate for all fisheries, but they are proving to be a powerful new tool to help end overfishing. Based on this scientific evidence and others, NOAA is encouraging all of its fishery management councils to consider catch shares wherever they are appropriate for a particular fishery. NOAA now has a formal policy supporting the use of catch shares in appropriate fisheries in the United States. And efforts are underway to explore ways to use these same concepts in international fisheries. The third solution I want to focus on has to do with habitat management and marine reserves. ecosystem approaches have drawn attention to the importance of protecting habitat and biodiversity to achieve healthy ocean ecosystems and resilient fisheries. New scientific information about the multiple benefits of marine protected areas, or MPAs, especially no-take marine reserves, illustrates how useful these underutilized tools are. An MPA is any area of the ocean that is managed for some conservation purpose. No-take marine reserves are areas of the ocean that are protected from all extractive or destructive activities. Reserves prohibit fishing, mining, drilling for gas or oil, or dumping, but they allow non-extractive activities such as swimming, boating, scuba diving, etc. Although there are thousands of MPAs around the world and far fewer marine reserves, most are very tiny. Globally, less than 1% of oceans is protected in marine protected areas, and far less than that in marine reserves. In contrast, between 10 and 15% of the land area is in parks. Recent scientific analyses of marine protected areas, but especially of marine reserves, provides powerful evidence that these tools have much to contribute to recovering depleted fisheries and promoting healthy, resilient ocean ecosystems. Around the world, marine reserves consistently result in recovery inside the reserve of depleted species, including significant increases in biomass, density, and diversity of species. And much of this bounty spills outside to the surrounding area. As important as this spillover effect may be locally, the biggest potential benefit lies in the increase in size and thus reproductive potential of individuals within reserves. Larger-bodied fish and larger-bodied invertebrates produce many more offspring than smaller-bodied individuals of the same species. Reserves allow fish and invertebrates to get large. This large size translates into immense reproductive potential. The larvae or young are often transported outside the reserve to varying distances and can serve to help replenish fished areas outside. Marine reserves are clearly a powerful but underappreciated tool for which there is compelling scientific evidence. Marine reserves are increasingly seen as good options to combine with other tools, such as the territorial user rights in fisheries, or TURFs, that I mentioned earlier, in order to promote ecosystem resilience in the face of environmental change. Some countries are experimenting with combining marine reserves with TURFs. Fishermen with exclusive access to areas adjacent to a marine reserve reap the benefit of spillover from the reserve. Moreover, reserves may provide significant benefit in protecting biodiversity and contributing to greater ecosystem resilience in the face of climate change and ocean acidification. As described previously, climate change and ocean acidification pose great threats to ocean ecosystems and valuable services that they provide. The ultimate solution to both climate change and ocean acidification is significant reduction in the production of carbon dioxide. Because other stressors such as pollution, overfishing, and non-native species can interact with and exacerbate the effects of climate-related stressors, strategies to reduce pollution and overfishing and invasive species are a sound approach to help ameliorate some of the impacts of climate change and ocean acidification in the short term. In similar fashion, protecting as much biodiversity as possible for example, in marine reserves, can enhance ecosystem resilience to climate change and ocean acidification. The tools described above are complementary to one another. A recent study in Science offers some solutions for using local actions to buffer coastlines from the impacts of ocean acidification. Land-based freshwater runoff can contain fertilizers and other pollutants that acidify oceans at the local scale. By implementing policies to reduce coastal erosion and runoff and foster sustainable land use, we can decrease the impacts of non-climatic acidification and enhance resilience to climate-related acidification. Working at the local level can also help sustain ecosystem services in another way by informing people about how activities in their own backyards affect ocean health. As described above, many powerful new scientifically based solutions are available to address many of the significant problems facing oceans. Ecosystem approaches, spatial planning, tools to understand and evaluate trade-offs in ecosystem services, new governance policies, catch shares, and marine reserves all offer significant hope for restoring depleted and disrupted ocean ecosystems and providing long-term benefit to people. However, these tools will not be utilized unless there is greater awareness that they are needed and greater public and political will to effect change. While public understanding of ocean issues has grown, it has not grown quickly enough. Fortunately, new communication tools and new champions are emerging. Social media, powerful visualization tools, and champions are emerging. Platforms such as Google Ocean and Fresh Voices offer timely opportunities to raise awareness and share information. Scientists have a key role to play in making their knowledge more accessible, more relevant, understandable, and embracing new communication tools and non-traditional partnerships, and devising creative solutions to local as well as global problems. Moreover, scientists can take heart from the knowledge that despite the immensities of the challenges, meaningful change may be closer than it sometimes seems. Social change is highly nonlinear, often characterized by rapid shifts or tipping points. Seemingly small changes can often trigger abrupt changes. We've seen that in the past, in the fall of the Berlin Wall, the collapse of the Soviet Union, or the recent regime shifts in the Middle East. We've also seen abrupt changes in social attitudes, for example, towards women's rights or smoking. The plethora of efforts around the world, through communities, universities, faith-based groups, businesses, non-governmental organizations, governmental agencies, and concerned citizens are building. The question is, what will it take to trigger more rapid, positive change? Inspiring actions are occurring at local to global scales. Consumers begin to make more informed decisions. As policies and management more accurately reflect our scientific understanding. As industries develop commitments to source only sustainably caught or farmed seafood. As creative endeavors seek to align economic and conservation benefit. It is my hope that the Blue Planet Prize can help catalyze more rapid change toward a more sustainable path. Scientists, public servants, citizens, activists, consumers, business people, environmental stewards, all have key roles to play. To my hosts in Japan today, I offer heartfelt thanks and a few closing thoughts. As coastal nations, Japan and the United States share a deep and abiding respect for the beauty, the bounty, and the fury of oceans. We understand the interdependencies between healthy oceans and healthy coastal communities, and we appreciate the need to restore harmony to our oceans and coasts. We recognize the importance of balance, and we understand the need to work with nature to ensure that this balance is maintained. As a public servant, I have worked to implement solutions, raise awareness, and provide people with information to make smart decisions, all grounded in science. And as a grandmother, I passionately want to leave a healthy blue planet for my baby granddaughter. Restoring the health and the bounty of the oceans is one of the greatest challenges of our lifetime. It is up to us to chart a sustainable future. The scientific knowledge and tools I've highlighted can point the way. And so I bring today a dual message, a message of urgency, but also a message of hope. And I am reminded of the eloquent words of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who inspired a social tipping point for civil rights in the United States and around the world. When writing about this great challenge, Dr. King spoke of the fierce urgency of now. In his book, Where Do We Go From Here, Chaos or Community, Dr. King said, quote, "We are now faced with the fact that tomorrow is today. We are confronted with the fierce urgency of now. In this unfolding conundrum of life and history, there is such a thing as being too late. The tide in the affairs of humanity does not remain at the flood. It ebbs. We may cry out desperately for time to pause in her passage, but time is deaf to every plea and rushes on. Over the bleached bones and jumbled residues of numerous civilizations are written the pathetic words, too late. We still have a choice today. This may be humankind's last chance to choose." Unquote. If we delay, we risk being too late. Healthy, productive, resilient oceans are possible with collective and concerted effort, but only by working together as a global community with a sense of purpose, of urgency, and of hope can we achieve the goal of a more sustainable future for our blue planet. I sense the fierce urgency of now. Do you?